Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide and Rebecca is dancing. We are on a mission.
Did we catch that?
We are on a mission to interview women and an occasional token man about how their passion and purpose have collided to create healthy relationships and profitable businesses. I am Elizabeth Denham, and here with Dancing Rebecca. We are the publishers of the Franchise Woman magazine and co-founders of the Coterie for Women. So Rebecca, you're clearly in a good mood today. How's it going?
Oh, it's actually been a rough week.
Well, you wouldn't know it to look at you dancing.
I don't know. Sometimes you just have to laugh, right? Sometimes you just have to dance.
I always believe in laughing to keep from crying.
Yeah. So I think that's what this past week has been like. It's been a crazy, I can't even tell you what it is, at least not publicly. Oh. But yeah, so thank goodness we can laugh.
Well, do you have a rose and thorn this week?
Well, I obviously do, but I can't tell you about that thorn, but I can tell you about a different thorn. That's actually kind of funny. So, as you know, I just moved into a new house in Northwest Arkansas, coming from San Diego, where we don't have bugs, right? And if I've told you this story before, please forgive me, but it was an interesting story. So I have somebody late at night, it's dark, pounding on my door, which of course I live alone, kind of scared me. I open the door and it's a guy that's in the pest control business, soliciting business. Now, as an entrepreneur and having put 40,000 people in franchises, I have total admiration for someone who's going door to door soliciting for business. I just think this is a true entrepreneur, true business owner. So he tells me he's a pest control guy and he goes into his whole sales pitch. It was absolutely brilliant, but I had one more late call with my resellers in Australia. So I had to cut him a little short. So he gave me a brochure. He took my number, did the whole thing. Now I know nothing about bugs, so I don't know what bugs there are, what bugs there aren't. So I'm thinking, what do I need pest control for? It's no big deal.
Well, if you don't have it, you'll find out.
I found out. So Elizabeth, the next morning, there were 3 wasps in my house, or hornets, or the red ones that look like they can sting you and hurt you, but they were some horrible things in my family room. Now, one was kind of flying, the other 2 somehow had died on the family room floor. And I swear to you, they weren't real. I think he set a couple of, I'm like, come on, they wouldn't just die once they come in the house, right? Again, I don't know anything about bugs.
Well, lifespans are pretty short for some of those flying things.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought for sure when I wasn't looking, he set 3 wasps free.
Oh, that is hilarious. You thought he was a really good marketer.
I thought he was a really good marketer. He says, she doesn't understand bugs. I'm going to show her bugs.
So funny.
So I had 3 hornets or wasps or whatever they're called, and they died. They died. I didn't have to touch them.
Well, maybe you don't need it.
Sold. Anyway, I was on the phone that afternoon. So the thorn is, it appears there's bugs in Arkansas, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to get used to it. And the rose is, I love watching entrepreneurs growing their business. Now, I don't know if he released those wasps into my house, but if he did.
And if he did, you're going to pat him on the back for it because it was good marketing.
I am. It's creative marketing.
I feel sure he did not sick the wasps on you, but I don't know. People are crazy.
I'm like,
that's too funny. Well, I'm glad you could appreciate the fact that he would release them into you so that you could possibly be stung in order to get business. At least
I'm not even sure they were real. All I know is one was flying, 2 were on the floor. So
that is so funny. We have bugs everywhere. You know, you just can't live in Alabama and not have bugs. We have
the humidity, I guess, is what they like.
Mosquitoes, roaches, wasps, crawly things. You know.
Yeah. This guy was listing them off. And the more he talked, the more frightened I become. I'm like, what the heck? just this whole list of stuff that is so
funny. I can't even imagine having no bugs.
I know. Come to California, there's very few.
The benefit of the West Coast.
Yep. All right. So how about you, girl? What's your rose and thorn this week?
Well, I had a rose I didn't expect today when I opened my door to check for something I had ordered, and I had a whole box of gorgeous cupcakes from the Coterie for my 50th birthday.
Oh, the Coterie sisters.
They're almost too pretty to eat. They're so beautiful. I can't wait.
You'll have to bring them tonight.
I will
have to bring them tonight to show us.
I will. I took a picture and I posted it online. So if you have not joined the Coterie, this would be a good time because everybody's feeling very generous right now. But it's just a nice validation that what we're doing is what we want to be doing, that you feel loved and you feel included, and you don't, I certainly did not expect this. I mean, it was this big elaborate box and you open it up and then it was in an ice pack. So you have to open that up and then you open up the cupcake. So it was like an ordeal to get to the whatever it was, which is just fun. It's fun to open the door to a surprise from women all over the place that we've been working and meeting.
I don't think we ever outgrow our love of surprises, not bad surprises, good surprises like cupcakes.
Well, it's just nice when people think of you. You just don't, you get to a certain point you don't expect and you don't need. But it's so nice to have a group of women who are kind and loving and supportive and want to make you feel good. That's what the Coterie is all about. And it's working because I felt really good. Felt really good.
And your Coterie sisters clearly appreciate what you've done, putting this together to create a platform where we can love on one another and we can encourage one another and edify one another and share cupcakes with one another.
Exactly. So that was my rose. My thorn is just kind of a stupid one, but when I had that car accident about a month ago or whatever it was raining like it is today, and I had an umbrella and I was standing under the umbrella and my mom and dad came to pick me up. So I got in their car. They took me to their house. I think I took it out there. I don't know. My husband picked me up, still raining, but I think it was close and I just ran to the car. I can't find that stupid umbrella and I loved it. It was one of those that opens inside out.
Oh yeah, I love those.
It's so nice because you don't get wet when you're getting in and out of the car. I can't find it anywhere. My mom has looked at her house. I've looked at my house. I've checked Donald's truck. It's the one, well, other than my car, it was a casualty in the accident. I cannot find this stupid umbrella. And it didn't matter because we hadn't have rain forever, but this week has been incredibly rainy. So I have looked and looked and looked. So that's just, it's a thorn sticking in my side. I can't find, and it was pretty. It was a pretty green, vibrant umbrella. So with like leaves all over it.
Aww. Pooh, that is a thorn, especially where you are, where you have rain frequently.
In the summer, every afternoon we have a thunder shower. So I guess I just need to bite the bullet and get a new one. But I just thought this is so dumb. It can only be one of 3 places. That's what's annoying me. Like I can get another umbrella. I probably have another umbrella that's less cute. However, it can only be one of 3 places. I mean, I know I did not leave it in the parking lot.
But you know what? That was a stressful time, Elizabeth. You were in shock. I'm sure your mom was in a shock. Your husband was in a shock. I mean, all of us were afraid of what had happened to you. So I'm sure your brain and nobody else's brain was thinking, oh, I got to put this in a safe place and make sure I take it home. You were thinking, is anything broken? Right?
I mean, I could have left it in the parking lot, I guess, or maybe I put it back in the car, the dead car. I don't know. Anyway, it's just a very annoying thing because it seems so silly, but I really like that umbrella.
I don't even own an umbrella. So this is so funny. Yeah. They're like a fashion statement, aren't they?
They are. And it was such a fancy, pretty one. I never buy nice ones because this you'll lose them. It's like sunglasses. I never buy nice sunglasses because I always lose them or sit on them, especially when the kids were little and they would throw them off your face, but.
Yeah. Or you got fingerprints, kids' fingerprints all over your glasses.
Anyway, that's my rose and thorn for the week. So
there we have it. We survived another week. Okay.
We survived. So
exciting.
Next time, leave your roses and thorns in the comments because we like to see them. And we will see you next week. All right. Welcome back to Where Passion and Purpose Collide. We are here with Tricia Petteys. She is the co-founder and COO of Payroll Vault Franchising and a partner and senior manager at Payroll Vault of Littleton. As one of the original team members, Tricia has facilitated the planning and execution of an original office with 80 clients to more than 3,000 clients and a franchise brand with 56 units in 23 different states and territories. Her background in human resources with a focus in administration, training, and payroll allowed her to galvanize the vision of Payroll Vault's CEO into measurable and attainable goals. Her current responsibilities focus on strategic systems, integration management, including CRM, payroll, timekeeping, HR training, and additional tools critical to her team and franchisee success. So Tricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
We are excited to have you. I always am curious, Tricia, this journey towards becoming a franchisor, towards franchising in general. It's very rare that, we wake up one day and they say, I'm going to be a franchisor, I'm going to be a franchise executive. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up where you are today?
It wasn't something I expected, but as I look back, I didn't really expect a lot of things. It didn't quite go according to plan. So I have an undergraduate degree in special education, and then I have a master's degree in education administration. So my plan was to become principal, superintendent kind of thing, right? And so when I was finishing up my master's degree, you have to do practicals and be out in the schools and in the superintendent's offices and stuff. And I found out pretty quickly it was political, a lot more political than I thought. So I was like, no, I'm going to change tax here because that's really not for me. So, love the kids, love that part of it, but didn't want to kind of dive down there. So I changed tax and had to rethink some things and had an opportunity to go into telecommunications. It was where my mom was. She got me a job. I mean, how many times does that happen, right? And when they onboarded us, it was a huge company, hiring lots of people. It was in the tech boom right around 1999. And when they were bringing people on, all the HR people were there, and it was exciting. And it was fun, but they had a lot of order to it. You will do this paperwork, your I-9s, your W-4s, direct deposit, all that stuff. And I thought, I could do this. And I kind of just put that in the back of my mind. And so I did the telecom thing for a couple of years, and I had an opportunity to get into HR. And I thought, you know what, that little seed sort of came forward, and I got into HR, and then I did generalist recruiting kind of thing, always taking different opportunities as they came along. And the one thing that ended up happening is I did recruiting for a large payroll company, and I had been there for a little while, and I made friends with one of the VPs, and her and I, went out to lunch regularly. And I said to her one day, I've been doing recruiting in HR for a while, and I'd really like to try something else. And she laughed. She's like, I've been waiting for you to say something because you need to come work for me. I'm like, okay. So she moved me in her department right into payroll, doing the job where I was in between the customer and the operations. And so I'm kind of salesy because I'm kind of friendly, but I'm very operations minded, and it was a great opportunity and I loved it. And, but then, and this was in Ohio, right? So then my husband got transferred to Colorado, and I tried to keep my job with that company. And they just said, you know what, we're not that far west yet, and we're really sorry. We hate to see you go, but we're sorry. And so I had to leave that situation. So when I got to Colorado, I had a mutual friend with who is our CEO, and he had just started Payroll Vault, just started it. He is an accountant, and he had opened payroll within his firm. And so he and I had a conversation just from a mutual friend who had introduced us. And he had a tiny little firm, 80 payrolls. And he said, I really want to grow this thing. Well, the company that I came from, they were at 300 employees. So they were still, they were decent size, but still small enough that I knew the original employees and would talk to them at the water cooler and in the hallways, right, about how the growth happened. And so I let the CEO know, you need to hire me, because I know what growth looks like. I know the stories from these guys and when it's so crazy and how they grew and got to where they are today. And I never said that before ever in my life, you need to hire me. Who says that? But it was just, it was just something that pushed me forward, and it's been a very great fit. Now, franchising, a long answer, right?
That's okay. We love stories.
Well, what ended up happening is that when we got our way through payroll and got that underneath us, we started talking to other accountants in all areas of the country who said, "You're making money from this payroll thing? This is a business. This is a real thing. We do payroll on the side. It's a pain and we don't like it. And, we'd like to make some money. We just don't see how you do that." And so we just kept telling people and teaching people, this is what you do. This is how you bring it in. This is what happens. And somebody finally said to us, "You know what? This is a franchise. You keep telling people what to do, just box it up and do the same thing every time. And that is what a franchise looks like." And we thought, huh.
Why not?
Why not? And our CEO has lots of ideas. He's the visionary in our workplace here. And that was just kind of one of the ideas, right? So he had been floating lots of different things. And so when he came to us and said franchise, we were like, okay, to add it to the list. But, once we really talked about it and really mapped it out, it seemed to make sense. So that's how I got into franchising. It was a really interesting journey. Yeah.
Right.
Kind of circumventing all of those things.
Well, and it seems like throughout your career and your education, you've been drawn to similar things, not necessarily similar jobs, but similar ideas of what you like to do. So if you have to define a theme that kind of connects all of those dots that got you here, what would you say that is?
I would say that theme, once I really sat down to think about it, is order out of chaos in every scenario. So when I was in undergrad and graduate school and working and learning all these different things and, oh, wait, got to change tax and all the different personalities that come with telecommunications and HR. HR is so broad, and learning all of the things that go there. I love taking the craziness and saying, okay, what do we need to do? What list do we need to make? And you know what, probably most importantly, what don't we need to do?
Right.
That has been so huge just in the last 10 years, I think, is not just saying yes and creating that order, but what are you saying no to? It's so important to make that no list. And it doesn't have to be no forever. It should be no for now. And if it's a great idea, let's put it on a separate list to look at in a future quarter, in a future year, but it should not derail what it is that we're doing. So
I think that's such an interesting thing, because a lot of times when you find partnerships, like you have a business partner, we've interviewed several people where you have that dynamic. You have the visionary, and then you have the balance for that, which is, okay, how are we going to implement these things on what timeline? So I think that dynamic is really helpful. And I think the visionary always gets a lot of attention, but I think the thing that makes it work is when you have that other side of the coin that says, okay, great, that's you can recognize a vision, but then practically implement in a way that's going to be successful. So that seems to be what your gift is and what makes you thrive. Yeah.
It is. And it was a huge game changer for us. I knew that was my strength, but it was an odd kind of balance to have. And I didn't have the words to put to it until I read Traction. Have you read Traction?
Yes, I've read it.
Yes. Okay. So, and that's what we were doing. And that's the dynamic that we have between the CEO and myself. But reading it chapter by chapter and having words to put to it, I was reading it actually on vacation, and I texted my boss and I said, "This is what I've been trying to tell you." Chapter 4. Right. And he's like, "Oh, I have it in my Kindle. Should I read it?" I'm like, "Read it now, read it now."
Yeah,
and so when I came back from vacation, we implemented it, and it has changed. It didn't really it did change our trajectory, but it galvanized everything even more than it already was. And the thing about our CEO is that he is not big personality, prideful visionary. He is deliberate, thoughtful. And so when I said, we need to say no to some things, you're a great visionary and you have 99 ideas. Let's do these 3 and then work on the rest of them and move forward. And so you prioritize and move forward. And that's how you know what you're doing this year and this quarter and this week. It's made all the difference.
I like how you put that, because sometimes saying no is the answer. It's the answer to organizing better use of time, better use of resources, human resources, and other ways. It's so funny. Just last couple of days, I've been dealing with some really big kind of technical things. And I'm looking at documentations and running things by attorneys and doing this and that and the other. And I'm like, I can't, this is all mumbo jumbo. And then all of a sudden this little light bulb went out and says, why are you doing this? Why don't you have your software developer look at this? And it was like, all of a sudden I passed it off. It's saying no to those things that we're not particularly good at. Or, and to your point, looking at all these fabulous ideas and projects and saying, which is the priority? Which do we need to say no to, even if it's just temporarily until other ducks are in a row? So I guess let me go back a second, because you've kind of highlighted this theme of, creating, what did you call it? Order out of chaos, is I think how you put it. Was there an epiphany moment where you kind of knew that? Because it's been consistent even in your HR career and other roles. Was there an epiphany that says, hey, this is what I'm good at? Or did you just naturally sort of step into that role wherever you were?
I do think it evolved over time. I don't feel like it was an epiphany, but I do feel like as I went through all of the different iterations of my career, I was always the one who ended up with the items on my desk of Tricia will sort this out. She'll make orders, she'll organize it, she'll put it in a binder, she'll create the database for it or whatever. And I feel like in the leaders that I have had in my life, they have recognized that in me and given me and delegated to me to take that on, which I have really appreciated. I've had some really great leaders.
Well, it's so nice to use your talents in the partnership with Elizabeth and I with the Coterie for Women and this podcast and the magazine. She's a you. Elizabeth is extremely organized, and she can take all this chaos and ideas and she can quickly have it in spreadsheets and systems and processes, and boom, boom, everybody's on the same page. I don't know what we would do without that, right? It would just be a bunch of ideas floating around in the ethers.
Yeah, good partnership, right?
A good partnership. Sounds like you have the same with your business partnership. And
yes, yeah, I'm very, very lucky and blessed. I'm so grateful. But you know what? I have had a lot of great partnerships and leaders throughout my life, and actually most of them have been women. My mom actually starting off, 80% of success is showing up, right? And I learned first from her work ethic every single day. Single mom, just went to it, nose to the grindstone, worked so hard, so smart, very organized, keeping our lives together. And then in my early days, like in graduate school, had these phenomenal leaders. I was in the AmeriCorps program, helping inner city kids with their schoolwork. And amazing leaders and women there they're the ones who actually got me in graduate school. They said, hey, we're doing this program. You want us to pay for your master's degree? I'm like, oh, I wasn't even going to do that, but okay.
yeah.
Right. And they super organized, intelligent. These women were all about efficacy. Can you do it? And do you feel like you can do it? That was huge for me. And then, I waited tables all the way through school and even a little bit after. That's just a good job. At the end of the day, you got cash in your pocket, you're sweaty, and you're like, yeah, I walked about 10 miles in the last 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And the organization at a restaurant level, everything has to be clean and organized, and appetizers and customer service and dinner, the dessert and everything. It had to be very orderly. And the manager who I was under her wing, she was wonderful. She was like a big sister to me and taught me about customer service and looking people in the eye and making sure everybody had what they needed. And then when I got out after school, even in the payroll world and HR, I had like the VP that I had lunch with that day, I always bounced ideas off of her, and she would write me little handwritten notes. Hey, you're doing a good job. I remember our conversation about this. Do you have questions about that? And so at every point, I took little nuggets from these women and thought to myself, that was a good boss. She was a good leader. this was a good part of her, like just kind of putting those pieces into the person that I wanted to be. Absolutely. So when I got to this situation, it was a brand new company and we got to build it from scratch. And so I had an idea in my head of what leadership I thought should look like and what I would have loved all together. And our CEO, he was like, great, go for it. Let's do that. That sounds good. Okay. Culture. Okay. PTO plans. Okay. Fun things. Okay. Work ethic, hiring practices. I mean, we put it all into place as we went along, and it's been great. It wouldn't have happened without all of those people that I worked with along the way.
Well, and one thing I wonder is, as you were going through those different jobs, because I have children, most of my children are in their 20s, and watching them navigate these opportunities for having mentors and learning from people, were you aware of it as it was happening, or is this something that you have reflected back on? Because I don't always think we realize we're even being mentored sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think being able to guide yourself in a way that you seem to have this, collection of women and you have collected the skills individually to try and make yourself the leader that you want to be, that you envision from all these little parts and pieces. But do you think you were aware of that as it was happening? Or is this something that as you've gone through your career and your life, you have sort of put together in hindsight?
I was aware when it was happening. I very much wanted a certain life for myself. Now, I did not say, I'm going to be COO of a franchise and I'm going to work in HR and I'm going to work in payroll. That's not what I mean.
Right.
But just the visual of the person and professional that I wanted to be. And in my personal life, I did have a picture of what I wanted that to be generally. And also when I was getting my master's degree, those women were teachers and they took me in and said, she knows this, go talk to her about that. She knows that. And he knows that, go spend some time with him. And they really brought that together for me and said, if you want this for yourself, you have to get to the people who know it before you do. You need somebody else to tell you and show you and guide you. And so I'm a deliberate person. It was very, I think I knew.
This is brilliant.
Yeah, so it's really an interesting thing because so many young people don't have the self-awareness to know what they don't know. Like my husband and I joke that the worst human on earth is a college freshman because they think they know it all. And they tell you what you don't know. But for you to have had that awareness the entire time is, I think, pretty unique quality to be that deliberate about picking and choosing those qualities that you wanted to emulate.
Yeah, I was very lucky and to have those women in graduate school to really pull that together for me and set me off on my path. Yeah, so grateful. And, I've got some teenagers as well, and I've never been so stupid in my whole life. Right. Right. I don't know anything.
That's crazy. But to be deliberate about that, to say, I want to be a great leader, and then to look around you, in this case, many were women, what qualities within that person makes her a great leader? Do I possess that? What do I need to develop that deliberate process? I mean, if all of us were taught that at age 18, can you imagine where we would be in 20, 30 years? We'd have some incredible leaders. I have a process that I do. It's a once a month process. Well, I basically, it's what did I learn? It's a what did I learn process. And I go over what happened the following 3 to 4 weeks, and especially the difficult, and I'll go, what did I learn? About that interaction, about that contract, about the this, about the that. So I don't make the same mistakes, but I don't think I'm as deliberate. I know I'm not as deliberate as you are in that process. So if you were to advise a young woman, as Elizabeth was talking about, or even someone my age, for goodness sake, I could use this advice. How do we get that mindset? How do we get that deliberate, I want to become, and therefore our eyes are open to the gaps and also folks that can teach us how to do those things? How do we deliberately do that? How do we consciously do that?
I think it is a visualization with the end in mind. So what does who are you in a year from now, in 3 years from now, in 10 years from now? What does that look like? and then you back into it. What do you need to fill? What do you need to do this week, this quarter, this year to get to that endpoint? And not closing yourself off and having that rigidness to yourself. I have to do this and I must do this, because if you're too close, then you do miss some opportunities that might be available. So having that visual at the end of the line is huge. That's what I would say. And my husband has been so great, and our CEO, we're kind of yin and yang. So my husband is this way too. He's visionary for our lives, and what retirement looks like, and after we're empty nesters and what that looks like. And he is able to, because I am list person, I am let's get this done. And he is more, this is what the future looks like. So I think in whatever way you can get that visual of down the road. And so our CEO, 3 years down the road, gosh, this is going to be great. And this is what our company is going to be. And he provides the picture. And so I help make the list to get there. So that is the deliberateness in my mind. And as we work towards this, of course, there's going to be goals where I think, I don't know how to do that. I can't make this happen. So who do I need to meet? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to read? What podcasts or, YouTube videos do I need to watch in order to make this happen? Who do we know to reach out to within our network? And that's where we go from there.
So in your personal life, let's do a little bit of a shift here. You mentioned your husband being the balance for you in your personal lives. How do you navigate that? Because when you've got a big job and you're in the franchise space and you're leading the cause, how do you manage? You have 2 children, right, in their late teens. Mm-hmm. How do you manage that dynamic? Are you the same in your personal life in terms of let's get it done? I mean, some of that comes out of necessity. I told my kids I didn't used to be like this until you made me. Because we have 5, and I became, when I remarried and I went from 3 children to 5, everything had to become more rigid and more scheduled and more intentional. And so it was a whole other level of organization. So how has that manifested in your life with your husband and balancing all of that?
It did take some time to kind of get that, but it really is 50-50. I'm so lucky. So my husband, we agreed on what our strengths are and what we like to do. So my man cooks. He is the chef in our house. He, and I'll never forget this. So he bought a Traeger grill, and we already had a charcoal grill and a gas grill. We had 3 grills in our backyard, right? And I'm at this event with all of our franchisees, and I'm like, he bought another grill. Why does he need grills? And they said, honey, if he's doing the cooking, let him have whatever he wants.
That's right.
The tools he needs.
Right?
Whatever.
I thought, oh, yeah. And so he loves to cook. He likes to go to the grocery store, 2 things I cannot stand. And so, but I don't mind, the laundry and some of the other cleaning and the things with the kids, we actually split up and do together. You're going to go to this practice, you're going to go to this appointment, and we do schedule it out together. I am the list person. I kind of keep the master calendar, but it really is a 50-50. And I think that when they were little, we were still kind of getting our sea legs on who should do what and how things divided. But, little kids are kind of stuck to you for a little while. And so splitting that up is a little harder. But once they get older, man, he was right there and has been we're yin and yang, really, very much so. As being all the difference. Lucky.
And then, as they get older, you're at our kids' ages, you can teach them the self-sufficiency. Because I told all mine, if you don't put it on the calendar, we all have these shared calendars. I do not guarantee you arrival at your destination because I'm planned to the minute. So if you don't put it on there, it's not my problem anymore.
It doesn't happen.
To train them up as they get, once they can drive, my life has gotten so much easier.
Right? Yeah. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, I have one who's driving. Oh my goodness. He went to the grocery store for me the other day. Oh,
the best thing ever, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
I was so excited when my daughter, and they're much older than your children, mine are in the 40s, finally drove. It was like, what a relief, especially as a single parent. It's like, yay, she's 16, here are the keys, go. Whatever you need to get to, do what you need to do. But this is such a beautiful, so you've created 2 wonderful partnerships here at Payroll Vault, where there's this yin and yang, this understanding each other's strengths and playing to them and respecting one another. And you've done the same thing at home with your husband. Oh my gosh. I'm envious. Bottom line, I'm just kind of,
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm envious.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
Every day. I'm so grateful.
And the gratefulness is part of what makes life so much easier and happier, right?
Yes.
So since we're talking about payroll, let's dig a little bit into Payroll Vault, because my thought was this order out of chaos idea is also kind of what Payroll Vault does for their clients. Is that, at least that's how I'm envisioning it. Can you kind of address that? Is that true? A franchisee is helping a business owner take something that's pretty chaotic and misunderstood and boop, 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 get things in order?
You know, it is. And we all label ourselves a little bit strange because we all geek out over payroll and we like to do math and we like to help our clients. So when they come to us, a lot of times they've been doing their own payroll, or they're with one of the big payroll companies and they've been lost in the shuffle, or they're on one of the do-it-yourself platforms. And when they did it themselves, they kind of made some mistakes.
Mhm.
And so what we're doing is we're taking all of that chaos and the IRS, that's some scary chaos, right? And state laws and local payroll laws, and kind of putting them all together in some simple math for them and very easy communication. And we're there for them. We pick up the phone. You know, how easy is that? We don't like phone trees. We don't like trouble tickets. We don't like those things. We like to talk to our clients and say, how can we help you? You know, what happened? And so when they're a new client of ours, they get real excited because they are finally talking to somebody real. And a lot of the time face-to-face, you know, we'll do web calls, we'll meet them in person because we serve our local communities, and well, as much as we can these days, right? And we just kind of take their mess and we clean it up and we make things really easy for them going forward. And if they come to us with a problem, it's stressful, right? Because money and people, you know, you mix those together. And if there was a mistake or if there's a problem, it's very, very stressful. So we bring them in and help them out, calm everything down and make it right. And then it's right going forward. So we just specialize in small businesses, because small businesses, sometimes they really do get lost in the shuffle a lot of times. And we're small, our franchisees are small, so it's a good fit. So when we give customer service and communication, it's what we know our clients are giving to their customers and clients. And so it is a very good fit, very good communication. And we do make a lot of order out of their chaos. So they can just do what they like, right? They didn't get into, they open a bakery, or they are opening like a putt-putt golf place, you know, a neighborhood thing. And they love doing that, which is why they open their doors. But then they think, I have to deal with the IRS and I have to deal with my state. I don't want to do that. So it's really nice for them to get it off their plate and give it to us, and we'll take it for them.
Yeah. And small business owners, they need to focus again on that big picture, where this business is going, doing what's necessary there. And it's very easy to get caught up in these little details. And if you're not good at it, it's not good use of your time, right? As a business owner. So offloading that to a payroll franchisee, they can take that, add some order to the mess, and let the business owner do what they do well. It's like a burden off of your shoulders. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you know, it's just,
yeah, they can exhale, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if Elizabeth doesn't have a question, I have a question, because there's got to be some crazy, funny story of a quirky client one of your franchisees worked with, or a unusual problem that you had to solve. Is there any kind of fun story you can tell us, or a problem that got solved that was interesting and that business owner goes, oh, thank goodness? Sorry, I put you on the spot there, but it was like, I can only imagine. I can tell you, I was sick for 5 years, and I got to just to kind of a number of years back, and I couldn't work. And I had 18 properties at that time I was managing, I was investing in. And my place, it was a mess. The books were a mess, taxes were a mess. I didn't know if properties were filled, not filled. And I had someone come in and create order out of that chaos. And it was like this huge relief. And I'm not saying you had a client as crazy as I was, because this was many years ago, but there's got to be someone that you say, now this was someone we really solved some big problems for.
You know, the one that I'm thinking of, she owns a bakery and a deli just up the street from our office, and I love her. And the first day, and she lives just down the street from our office too. And so, I mean, talk about community, talk about neighborhoods. So she came into our office physically one day, and she brought all of her payroll information. Well, it was handwritten in pencil and ripped out of a spiral notebook.
Oh,
so here she is with a stack of papers of all the payrolls that she did. She's very smart and self-sufficient, and she was just, gosh darn, just committed to doing her payroll correctly. So she had been Googling all the tax tables, all the labor laws, and doing it with a pencil and a calculator, and then filing her forms. And so she finally brought it to me. She goes, Trish, I think I missed a return. I think I missed a report. She goes, I'm starting to get nasty grams from the IRS and from the state. And I need you guys to help me. And so, and you know what? She actually was doing it right. She only had a couple of little hiccups in the middle of that caused, once you have one hiccup, it kind of creates a snowball. And so we found the hiccups and we plugged those holes, and we ironed everything out for her, contacted the IRS and told them what was going on. And she didn't have any penalties or interest, and it was really fine. But we just love her, and we love her cookies. So
I would do a trade, right? I would take her bakery products and trade for whatever services.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And she's wonderful, and she's still in business, and she's doing great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Tricia, we are running out of time. So I wanted to give you the chance to let everybody know what the best way to reach you is if they're interested in Payroll Vault as a franchisee, as a customer, any of those ways. What is the best way to get in touch with you so that they can get more information?
If they are interested in a franchise, they should head over to payrollvault.com and click right on our franchise page, and it will tell them more about that. If they're interested in becoming a Payroll Vault customer, same thing, payrollvault.com, and they can head to their most local office. And our main number is 303-806-0276 if they want to call us directly, and we will point them in the right direction.
I already feel more organized just talking to
you. You too. It can happen to you.
Tricia, thank you for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. You gave some great personal advice in terms of personal and professional growth. I hope all our ladies and men that listen in also listened in. And then also this whole idea of getting our lives organized is so important. Otherwise, they're just ideas. So thank you for spending time with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
What do you think is the #1 challenge for franchisors? You got it, getting the right fit franchisee. And as you know, poor fit franchisees are often poor performers. Poor fit franchisees cost more to train and support. Poor fit franchisees are rarely satisfied or compliant, which can lead to validation issues. Not a good place to be. But now there is a solution. Zoracle Profile's scientific spot-on match program. Working with top broker groups in franchising, Zoracle has created a platform that scientifically matches the broker's candidate to the right fit franchise brand. Spot On Match predicts the compatibility, performance, and viability of a prospective franchisee. Spot On Match gives the franchise development team a data-driven and scientific approach to selling franchises. This is how it works. Zoracle works with each franchisor to establish their top performer blueprint. This research assesses current franchisees to determine the key psychographic indicators that separate high performers from mid to low performing franchisees. The final result of the research is the brand's Eclipse report, which compares prospective franchisees to a franchise system's high performers. Finally, brokers are running a spot-on profile on each of their franchise prospects. These profiles are then scientifically bumped up against the franchisor's high performer algorithms, and the match process begins. Dashboards are built for the franchisor and the broker to make sure the process is smooth and trackable. Right Fit matches instantly. Find out how you can be a spot-on match member. Save time. Stop guessing. Start matching. Call Zoracle Profiles.
Welcome to Women in the Know, where we discuss everything from politics and policy to relationships and marketing. We take the lessons we have learned through our guests, our interviews, and our lives, and we share them with you in the hopes that we can all take a little something that we didn't know yesterday and apply it to today. So, Rebecca, we talked with Tricia Petteys of Payroll Vault, and she mentioned this idea of visualization with the end in mind. Which I think we all have a lot of probably ways we refer to that. I know you talk about reverse engineering, but what was your biggest takeaway from that? Because I think it's such a great way to look at the end goal. What is it that you want? Who is it that you want to be? How are you going to get there? What did you think about what she said?
I tell you what, I was dumbfounded. I know this sounds like, and everybody should know this, but I'm like, wow, what a brilliant idea that she deliberately and consciously decided who she wanted to become. And in this case, a good leader. But she decided, who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? What's my life going to be like when I have accomplished that or achieved that? And then she did this reverse engineer. Who do I need to know? What do I need to learn? What books do I need to read? What classes do I need to take? And she deliberately went about to self-assess, I guess, where her gaps were, what she lacked to be able to become this person she wanted to become. And so then she went about collecting the knowledge to become that. I'm like, duh. Why didn't I think of that? That's what I came in with was, why didn't I think of that? Because at my age, I'm thinking, I wish I would have learned that at 18 or 28 or 38 or 48. Where the heck would I be if I had thought in those terms?
Well, and I think it's an interesting thing too, because she seems to, from a younger age than expected, have understood what she didn't know. And we talked a little bit about, when young people start off and they don't know what they don't know. She seemed to know what she didn't know. And I think that's a gift, because that's when you're the most willing to learn, when you seek those people out to teach you the things that you don't know or the things that you're not good at. And how do you fill in those gaps, or how do you delegate those things to people who are good at it? Right. And have the confidence to do that. She strikes me as an incredibly self-aware and confident person, probably most of her life. And I don't know that everybody is consistently that way.
Right.
I mean, I think also sometimes people reach a certain level where they think they don't need that anymore. And I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Oprah's Super Soul, which I've gotten into lately because she talks about some of the things we talk about. And one of them, I forget who it was, but someone got on there and said, your calling should change. Like most people think when you have a calling that it is this one thing. I am called to be a whatever. And she talked about that should be changing as you progress through your life. Otherwise you're just static and stagnant, and your calling should be dynamic. Agreed. Which I thought was such a great way to put it, because you might have a similar theme of a calling, but it might not stay the same. And it should, and if it does, then you're not paying attention.
You're not evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not evolving. You're not applying it, but you're right. I do think there's probably a theme, but the calling itself will depend on where your strengths have evolved and the opportunities that are there. And in this case, Tricia, like you said, had incredible self-awareness. She knew she wanted to be a leader. She didn't know in what way or what vertical, but she knew she needed to acquire these skills and even people. She needed to collect people to get there. She didn't know it was going to be in HR or payroll, or she didn't know it was going that direction, but she knew she was going to be a leader, and she was willing to do that. So like you said, she somehow knew what she didn't know. I mean, or at least was aware of what she didn't know, and went in search of it. I got to tell you, I'm hoping, Elizabeth, that Tricia will share some of her insights with some of our coterie women, especially our younger ones. This idea of the end in mind, right? And I know others talk about it, but she applied it. I think is a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
Most of us are into survival, right? We're head down, just doing, and then the world takes us a certain direction.
Yeah, and you're reacting. And
yeah.
And she's very intentional about, and she used the word deliberate. She's very deliberate. So I think that it's a nice way to look at your life and where you're going and what you want and who you want to be, and then work toward it very intentionally and specifically. And I do hope she comes on. We've started doing these facilitated conversations on the Hive in the coterie, and we're going to see if we can't get her to come on. But that's something that people need to pay attention to, is that on the calendar, if you go to thefranchisewoman.com, or if you are in the coterie looking at the calendar of events, you can join us to have these conversations with these amazing women. We had Laura Spalding do one on mindset. Jane Plitt, when this airs, will have done one on recognizing your assets and leveraging those for your success. Hopefully we can get Tricia scheduled. We got
Mary Ann O'Connell coming, and Kelly Compro, yep.
So I think, if you are interested in these kinds of conversations with women who are living it, and can help you, there's mentorship that you can find just in a conversation. And an example that you can aspire to. So I think we're getting some amazing women on this platform, and you need to take advantage of it, because they're not highlight you're going to bump into.
Yeah, I want to highlight what you just said. This there's so much we can learn from a conversation. It doesn't have to be in a formal situation, in a textbook or seminar or whatever. And that was a lot of what she was also talking about. Tricia was talking about. Much of her learning came from normal conversations with bosses or individuals that she was associated with, and she got it. She learned something by being actively participating in those conversations and listening. So she was learning constantly by being open to it.
Yep. All right. Well, I think it's a great conversation to think about those things as you're moving through your life. So stay tuned for more Women in the Know. Coming up next, you can ask Beck and Liz. So we will see you there. The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
Welcome to Ask Beck and Liz, where no topic is off limits. We want to answer your questions about business, life, everything in between. Send your questions to ask@beckandliz.com. That's ask@beckandliz.com. Our question today, Elizabeth, is coming from our conversation with Tricia at Payroll Vault. And one of the things she said in our conversation with her was that she collected women. So she had this collection of women that were mentors to her. And I thought it was a very interesting concept. And of course, she also did it very deliberate. And they had massive, not just input, but influence ultimately on the direction her life would take as a future leader. So what were your thoughts on this idea of a collection of women?
Well, I like the idea of it. And I think that it's interesting how intentional she was. And I talked about stalking the people.
Yeah. I thought that was funny.
But I have always been one in a new situation to kind of sit back and analyze who I want to get to know. And then I try to find a way in, a way to target, or a way that sounds so manipulative.
Stalking. Back to that stalking.
Yeah, that sounds kind of a little treacherous, like stalking people. But I think it's important, when you're coming up through life in the different phases, you're always told you are who you surround yourself with. But I truly believe that. I think that you try to find people who elevate you in whatever way that is, spiritually, professionally, personally, in parenting, in your career path. So, I've had women in dance who I've admired and tried to learn from and emulate. I've women who are writers. And, I'm always trying to join groups where I find these women. When I moved here, and I've talked about that, the Dogwood Trail group that I do, a woman who runs that, I was very intentional about developing a relationship with her, because she's just an outstanding person in the community and in her profession, and trying to influence young girls to be successful and independent, and know how to do that. So I think it matters a lot to have those people that have something that you see a lack of in yourself.
Yeah.
And then in turn try to pay it back to the next group of women, or whoever that may be. What about you? What did you take from that?
I agree. I mean, she did a self-assessment. I'm going here, end of mind. And what am I missing? What do I need to learn? And then, like you said, she looked for mentors, women who possessed that attribute, had those connections, understood something that she could learn from, and hopefully also be able to emulate. So it was kind of this, some of us have a strength in one area and weakness in another. So if we're great at being a great mother, but we're not so great at negotiating, difficult situations in business, or we're not so great at saving money, or we're not so great at whatever, then we search out people that are good at those things, and we deliberately attempt to learn from them. You don't want to take advice, business advice or financial advice, from someone who's broke or poor, right? You don't want to take marital advice from someone who's had 6 divorces, right?
Well, they could probably tell you a lot about what not.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that won't work. But she was.
Both of us been there, not with.
Been there.
But we can probably tell you a lot of what not to do, right?
That's right.
There's value there.
Yeah. Gotta know where your groove is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not so good here, pretty good here. But I also think she didn't address it, and I thought it was interesting, is she went in search of this. But my guess is there was probably some reciprocal situation going on. You mentioned kind of the hand up, hand down, where you're now passing this to the next generation or whatever. But I can't imagine, having spent some time with Tricia, that there wasn't some reciprocal going on even there. You don't just have someone teach you or mentoring. There's likely going to be something that you can do in turn. So I think that's important in all relationships, that we consider how we can bring value, then areas maybe that person doesn't have something. And I know that's a lot of what we do at the Coterie is we want this reciprocal relationship where we can learn from each other, but we can also give to one another.
Agreed. And that's not to be, you can't dismiss people who might be younger or less experienced or in a different place either, because there are several young people that I admire very much. And I think that are in the beginning phases of their lives or careers or whatever they're doing. And I think that it's important to understand that as individual humans, there are things that can be learned. You can be mentored by anyone.
Yes.
Or learn something by watching anyone. I mean, when my son was having seizures and he was 2 years old, he was such a stoic. He just did it. He did what needed to be done. And he didn't whine or cry about it. He just did it. Yeah. To the point where I threw him up to I didn't throw him up, but I had a client who was in
this conversation, Elizabeth, is going squirrely.
I know. Well, this man was trying to get disability for seizures and he'd only had like 2. And he just was paralyzed by fear. And he didn't meet the requirement for disability. So at some point I said, my son has this problem. I didn't do it for weeks and weeks and weeks, but I finally said, my son has this problem. And I didn't say he was 3,
Yeah.
But, you just have to get up and try to live life like it's going to, you're going to be okay and deal with it if you're not. And that did turn a little bit sideways. But the point is, I learned from my child. Mm-hmm. And I think recognizing those qualities that you can aspire to, he was just such a I got to get it done. This is what I got to do. And I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I'm so glad you pointed that out because it has nothing to do with the age or background or education. There's always something we can learn. One of my nemesis in business years ago was also one of my best teachers, right? She had attributes that I crazy admired and envied, that she was so good at. And to this day, I frequently say, to myself, in this situation, how would so-and-so handle it? Mm-hmm. So we can learn from enemies. We can learn from friends. Mm-hmm. We can learn from young and old and educated and uneducated. If they have the attributes that we lack, then why not? Yeah. These people are brought into our lives for us to share with them and they're to share with us.
Agreed. It's nice to remind ourselves of it.
Indeed. Oh, solving the world's problems one question at a time, Elizabeth. So, thank you everyone for joining us today where passion and purpose collide. Profits are made and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.